I wanted to have a chat to you today about why arts, crafts and creative hobbies still matter in the age of artificial intelligence. I would like to highlight that I'm not an AI expert, I'm just a regular person who likes doing creative things, and what I'm going to say in this video is personal opinion, questions that come into my mind. They may not necessarily be correct. You decide for yourself if these thoughts or opinions resonate with you or not. If you agree or disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm not an expert, these are just opinions. Creative people all over the world, both professional and amateur, have been discussing AI for a long time. They raised both opportunities and risks that come with it, and of course it's a huge discussion. A lot of concerns that people raise are really at that systems level. A question or concern that gets raised a lot basically comes down to whose resources are being used to generate whose profits, and how can fairness be ensured. That question, along with other systems level questions, is of course valid, but it is not one that I would like to focus on today. I would like to talk to you about a very personal question to a lot of people, and that is, how can they compete? I've heard people ask, what is the point of drawing or painting or taking photographs, making posters, whatever, if AI with a bit of luck can deliver it better and faster? People ask, how can we compete with that? I think it's worthwhile unpacking that question a little bit. I think a lot of times when people ask about being able to compete with something or someone, what they actually want to know is whether they have chance at winning against that something or someone. So I want to understand, what is it exactly that we are competing in? What is it that we want to win at? Maybe we can make a little sports analogy. I feel like a lot of people who have ever done competitive sports might potentially agree with the idea that to have a good chance of winning at something, you have to be choosing the right things to compete in the first place. So for example, a very tall girl is much more likely to have impressive results in basketball than in gymnastics. If you want to be competitive, if you want to be winning at something, it's worthwhile picking things where you have the right resources, abilities, skills, qualities. And yes, of course, you can work very hard on skills that you don't have and then develop those skills and get better and better, but that is not the point. The point is, if you want to be winning, picking the right thing to compete in can be quite beneficial. You're not going to outrun a cheetah or outstomp an elephant or outswim a fish. So pick the right competitions. What is it exactly that we're wanting to compete at with AI? Can I paint a complex landscape image faster than AI can generate it? No, I cannot. But do we measure the value of art by how fast it was created? I personally don't. I'm far more interested in quality of art. And of course, quality of art is a very subjective concept. Let's put AI aside for a minute. We already exist in the same universe that had Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Obviously, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like many artists, even professional artists, successful ones, deep down would have enough self-awareness to realize that they are not at the same level as Da Vinci or Michelangelo, that they don't have that level of genius, that they don't have that same level of talent. It doesn't mean that they don't have talent at all, but they're no Michelangelo, they're no Da Vinci, and many of them know it. Does that mean their art has no point? I don't think it means that. The world had many great artists after Michelangelo and Da Vinci. Imagine if every one of those great artists had compared themselves with Da Vinci and thought, well, I'm no Da Vinci, so I may just become a dropshipper. I feel the world would have missed out on a lot of great art. So if being in the same universe as Da Vinci and Michelangelo doesn't stop you from wanting to make art, then you certainly shouldn't let a glorified clip art generator stop you. And I'm not even talking about glitches of AI. I'm not talking about dogs with 12 legs and other monstrosities that it sometimes generates. I have no doubt that that technology will keep getting better and better, and that it will produce more beautiful, more coherent, more believable and plausible images as time goes by. It already can produce very plausible looking images. But there's a big difference between something being something and something looking like something. As I said, I'm not an AI expert or anything, so if any AI experts are watching this and would like to share their wisdom in the comments, I would love to read it. But it is my understanding that the way AI creates images is by looking at a whole bunch of other images. It takes prompts and then looks at a lot of different pictures and combines them in a way that it thinks meets what the user wants to see. I feel that no matter how many images it might use to generate something, it's still going to be a relatively poor data set. Not because of quality or quantity of inputs. I'm sure it ingests plenty of good quality pictures, but because it can only use a limited type of inputs. AI can take outputs of people's creative process, but it knows nothing of the inputs that went into that creative process. What do I mean by that? I mean that if I ask AI, and by AI I mean AI tools available to the general public at this moment in time, if I ask it to generate me a tree, it will look at a whole bunch of pictures of trees and try to combine them and process them in a way that matches what I've requested. It looks at images of trees and it looks at words. So it takes limited types of data that exists in a digital form in an attempt to generate something that looks new but matches the description. But if I ask a real person to draw me a tree, the list of inputs is going to be so much more varied, so much richer. And it doesn't matter if they're a great artist or a 6-year-old with coloring pencils. You see, when a real person draws a tree, they don't just use visual data. We don't just generate an image of a tree based on trees we've seen before and images of trees we've seen before. There is so much more than that. The way a person draws a tree might be influenced by things like early memories of a beautiful tree growing outside their window. They might not even remember what it looks like. They might remember the shade that it dropped onto the carpet underneath the window. They might remember the sound it made. They might remember the stories their grandparents told them about trees. You might remember picking apples from a tree in your grandmother's backyard. You might remember planting a tree together with your parents. You might remember going to the park hoping to see a squirrel in a tree. There is so much more to a tree than an image. AI doesn't have that. AI also doesn't have a biological body that impacts how we can draw something. The way you were taught to hold a pencil as a child might have an impact on how you draw a tree 30 years later. Or perhaps you don't have a table to draw on, so you draw on the floor or on the wall, and that causes you to change the way you hold your pencil. It doesn't even matter if the tree you drew was technically good or not. What matters is that every moment of your life has contributed to the creation of that tree. Your memories, your feelings, the songs your mother used to sing, your blood pressure, your finite time, they all went into that drawing of a tree. And it's something that AI can't compete with. We're the last generation to have known the world before AI. So I think we owe it to this world to create something real in the time we've got. So go draw your tree. Go knit your sweater. Go sing your song. And remember to tell your kids one day what a world it was.